Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, July 6, 2011, and I'm Darko. Please visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. And ddarko2012 is my YouTube channel. I have a poll up here. There's 3 days left to vote if you haven't voted. You might want to check it out. How do you think the situation in Libya will end? And just recently, today actually, the news for Libya, as far as Gaddafi goes, is he's willing to step down as long as his son is able to run for elections or be nominated. It says here the first option is Gaddafi will remain the leader of Libya, and basically they'll stay a sovereign nation. 11 people said it, 42%, followed by Gaddafi will either step down or be assassinated and Libya will lose its sovereignty. 13 people said that, 50%, that's the majority. Neither was 0, and 7% said not sure. You go down to the bottom, network blogs, and you can follow me there. Check me out on Facebook. It says here, U.S. stocks climb as euro weakens, Treasuries gain on Portugal rating cut. U.S. stocks rose, racing an early drop as gains in transportation, technology, and consumer staple companies overshadowed a slowdown in service industry growth and China's interest rate boost. The euro slid and Treasuries rose after Portugal's credit rating was cut to junk status. U.S. listed China stocks decline on rate rise. China stocks listed in the U.S. retreated from 1 month highs after the nation raised interest rates for the third time this year to tame inflation that has quickened to the fastest pace since 2008. I'll cover that from the People's Daily Online later. Euro to retain gains made versus dollar in the next 12 months. And most, if not all, the links will be posted in here. So don't forget to check them out on YouTube in the video's description down there. I post all of the headlines with the links that I cover here in order. So I like to go through a brief overview of it. And, I just kind of, I'm hoping that people go down, I could do the headlines, give my quick take on it, and move on, because there's always a lot of news to cover, and so I would hope that you just go check those out. It says Portuguese bonds pummeled. Portuguese bond prices plummeted, and the euro slumped Wednesday after Moody's downgraded the country's to junk status, disqualifying the country from an index of sovereign debt and triggering a sell-off. Greece blasts ratings agency madness as Portugal downgraded their junk. Portugal's debt downgrade by Moody's to junk status provoked more anger on Thursday as Greece's foreign minister blasted the madness of the rating agency. Then we move on to commodities here briefly. Commodities were going up recently, and the prices, and then they just took a little dip. Oil crude futures were up about 35 cents. Heating oil up about $1.50. Gas oil futures were up $5.50. Then moving down here, most of them were down, except for the soybean meal and wool futures. Metals copper futures $432.50 is what it's trading as at right now currently, and the change was $2.25. It was down. Gold's up almost $17, trading at $1,529.60. Silver still above 30, which is good. It says here $35.98. It was up 57 cents. Moving on to oil. Oil dips on demand worry, choppy and low volume trade. Oil prices slipped in choppy trading on Wednesday, buffeted by low trading volume as an interest rate hike by China and Europe's debt woes kept demand concerns in focus ahead of data seen showing a drop in U.S. crude stocks. 1.3 million driven off the road as the cost of petrol passes 1,700 pounds a year. The estimated 1.3 million people have given up driving over the past year because of the rising costs of motoring. And I've talked about this with people about using oil and all that as a way to restrict travel. The ultimate goal is to get people out of their cars into public transportation, and really just staying in these little eco villages, all in this humongous mega city. I mean, that's the future. Not people having cars, being able to drive all the way across the country, or even commuting in their own personal vehicle to work from the suburbs into the city. And we have here food prices push shop inflation up. Another surge in the price of food has pushed shop inflation to its highest rate for more than 2.5 years, an industry body said today. And just to cap off what I was just saying, the ultimate goal here for the elites is to take away all the slaves personal and private property, so their houses, their land. Well, most people don't even own the land; the state does. That's why they pay property taxes. But their homes, their and their vehicles, and that. So we have here new car sales fell again last month. There were 183,125 new registrations in June, 6.2% down on the June 2010 total. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders says the 12th successive month that sales, which were boosted last year by the government's car scrappage scheme, have fallen. Just following up, China raises interest rates. The central bank announced its fifth interest rate hike in 8 months, signaling it remains more concerned about accelerating inflation than the risk of a significant slowdown in the world's second largest economy. Then we have up next, the Reserve in Australia may cut growth forecasts as rates are put on hold. The Reserve Bank has flagged that the Australian economy is rapidly losing steam as inflation moderates, and cautious consumers save more, indicating interest rates could remain on hold for the next few months. Consumer caution keeps loan ratios right down. Australians are borrowing less as house prices slide, further entrenching the culture of debt reduction set in train by the financial crisis, takeover, restructuring, or heist, if you want to put it that way, by the international banking cabal. Then we have Philippine inflation hits 26-month high. Philippine inflation hit a 26-month high of 4.6% year on year in June, the government said Tuesday, a month after the central bank said pressure on price increases was easing. Then we have OECD. Annual inflation accelerates 3.2% in May, and consumer prices said in the area rose by 3.2% in the year to May, the highest since October 2008, the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development said on Tuesday. He said they attributed this increase mainly to a sharp acceleration of inflation in Canada and the United States. Then moving on to housing, renters see prices skyrocket. Says, sorry renters, but the days of low rent and lenient landlords are over, at least for now. And just a little quick side note, just looking for places now, you have to have these credit checks. So you may not even be able to get into an apartment based off your credit score. How they do the insurance and that, looking at credit scores. It's all about that. This crazy financial system just does have you entrenched in it so much that you may be living under a bridge or a shed with your family and your children, and then CPS will come take them. We'll cover that later as well. It says nationwide, the average rate for the apartment and home rentals is up 6.7% from June 2010, according to a new report from housing search engine HotPads. It says prices for studio apartments are up 14%. Wow, dude. And a 5-bedroom home is 12% more. 1 and 2 bedrooms got off relatively easy with average increases of 2.3 to 2%. And that's kind of important if you're trying to make that hard decision of whether you're going to go for a studio to save money, because some people just say, whatever, I can use that 1 bedroom, but I'll go with a studio. But, it's you might be better off just going with the old 1 bedroom. Says here that tenants will see the bulk of the rent increases this year. Says predicts listing site rent.com, but can expect another 3% jump when it's time to renew in 2012. Then next up, Canada's housing bubble deemed close to bursting. Canada's housing market in the bubbles that's set to burst, and prices could plunge by as much as 25%. A major independent research firm warns housing valuations have lost all touch with fundamentals, and housing debt is at a record high. And then we're going to move on here to the UK. UK house prices enjoy surprise bounce in June. Home prices rallied 1.2% in June on the previous month, Halifax reported, offering a glimmer of hope for the market, which has seen prices sliding steadily downwards. Then we're talking about sellers. Sellers brace for new mortgage caps. October change is meant to reduce the government footprint in housing, but industry fears it could lead to lower prices. The federal government is readying its first retreat from the mortgage market, with the size of loans eligible for government backing set to decline in October. And then when you go to the little image there, you can check it out. And I tried to pull up the map, but it didn't come up. So you can go there and check that out. Link will be posted. It's mostly on the West Coast and out west, basically. Indian tribes welcome much maligned FEMA homes. I wouldn't, because those things, they've been known to have formaldehyde and get people and families sick. Wanda Tiger and her husband need a home after long-term house-sitting arrangement came to an end, but for members of the American Indian tribe in rural Oklahoma, affordable housing options were. It says here the mobile homes proved impractical in areas where power and water service had been destroyed, and some people living in trailers started to fall sick because the RVs had high levels of formaldehyde, a cancer-causing chemical common in building materials. 6 years after the hurricane, the mobile homes that became the symbol of the government's failed response are finally being put to good use. FEMA has quietly given many of them away to American Indian tribes that are in desperate need of affordable housing. And finishing up, this is a sad truth. Compared to some homes on reservations, FEMA's homes are like castles, said Cheryl Costley, chairman of the National American Indian Housing Council. And miners buy up Queensland farms. Almost 140,000 hectares of Queensland farming land has been snapped up by the 4 major coal seam gas companies. Land includes high-quality cropping land and grazing properties that companies have snared for strategic reasons or for major infrastructure projects, the Courier Mail reports. Then planned job cuts increased by 12% in June, second sequential increase. Then we're moving on here to a press TV article. UK train company to cut 1,400 jobs. Big deal or big news out there in the UK. Next up, we have Florida budget plan to cut 1,300 jobs. Job gains in private sector are illusory for U.S. Alan Tonelson says. And I try to move down here. As bad as the U.S. employment picture looks, the official Labor Department figures understate the magnitude of the crisis. So you go in there and check that out. I got to keep moving because I have plenty of news to cover still. Law graduates starting pay falls 20%. And look at this. Fortescue signs up for driverless trucks from Caterpillar. So remember what I was talking about eventually just phasing out people altogether, the humans and workers, and just have a few to operate the machines. This is another sign that we're heading in that direction. But look at this. Oh, another Australian article. State looks to UK and Ireland for workers. So state government representatives from various business groups will head to the UK and Ireland to recruit much needed workers for Western Australia. And go in there and check it out. We're looking at service industries, and U.S. expanded slower. Service industries in the U.S. expanded at a slower pace in June, a sign that the economy cooled at the end of the first half of 2011. Then we have 2/3 of Britons think economy is getting worse. Gallup, in no month of Obama presidency has majority believed economy was improved. U.S. Fed's QE2 stimulus ends with a fizzle. It said they wound up its $600 billion QE2 program to boost the ailing economy with easy liquidity on Thursday, having generated more controversy than jobs and growth. Cornyn says Republicans may accept mini deal on raising the U.S. debt limit. Then next up we have, just wait for my computer, U.S. government needs more credit, okay? China says the U.S. is already defaulting on debt. Germany to foot over half of EU's bill for Greek bailout, says report. And then next up, German parties oppose KSA arms sale. Check this out. Members of German opposition ruling parties are angry with the government for deciding to overstep the country's laws in order to sell its main battle tanks to Saudi Arabia. I covered that as well in the last broadcast here. White House denies report claiming Geithner to resign. And then we have this. Waiting on my computer. Mark Zandi, Jamie Dimon would be a fabulous replacement for Timothy Geithner. So you can go in there and check that out. Christine Lagarde, IMF must focus on credibility. And she wants the fund to be more connected, credible, and comprehensive. In other words, they want to be more involved in sovereign nations, if there's any left out there. Next up, we have Goldman took the biggest loan in Fed program, $15 billion in Australia, to unveil pollution tax. That's a big deal in Australia. Emissions plan may hit luxury cars. And we have conservative MEPs defeat new climate change targets. Next up, elderly British told to pay more taxes than U.S.-Mexico signed cross-border truck deal. And that's, of course, what the North American Union, what we're talking about, or the SPP. Then Federal Agriculture Minister Joe Ludwig announces the end of the live export ban. I covered that in detail last video. Welcome to the new cost of living under Prime Minister Julia Gillard's carbon tax. Not only will small businesses struggle under the new tax, families will be forced to pay $200 a year more after the carbon tax hits day-to-day bills. New economic modeling by Victoria's government revealed. Benefit cuts threaten thousands in Wales. Then we have NHS chief warns of rising hospital waiting times. Financial problems with the NHS are likely to cause a rise in waiting times in England, the health chief says. Then Canadian Post Office still slow to deliver after coming back from their little strike. Says here it's been a week since the Canada Post employees were legislated back to work, but many Canadians are still checking their mailboxes in vain. So, hey, Yeah, sometimes this is how our post office works here in the United States, just as efficient. GGN, and I'm Darko.